Bonjour. Danse. Okay. Greetings. Hello, Oklahoma. I want to hear it again. Hello, Oklahoma. You know, it's a great honor to be speaking here. I give thanks to Cricket Rice, his family, and the Waters family for inviting me. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pheasant-Neganigwane. My Indian name is Shiibaashka'igan. I'm from Manitoulin Island of the Great Lakes. So you know, way up there, 18 and a half hours north of here, on that island that sits on Lake Huron. That's where I am from. I'm Anishinaabe of the Three Fires Confederacy. So what that means is I'm Odawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. On my father's side and my mother's side, I have Menominee relatives from Wisconsin. And on my mother's side, I have relatives from Akwesasne, Haudenosaunee. I'm a mom of 3 beautiful children. My daughter here, Sophie, she's going to come and stand beside me here. She's my eldest. I have 2 sons, they're grass dancers, Matthew Pheasant and Jesse Ozomic. I'm a Nokomis of 8 grandchildren, and most of them all dance. When Cricket asked me to speak, I was thinking, where do I start? I have so much that I wanted to share, but I don't want to ramble too long. First, I want to acknowledge when I was driving here 18 and a half hours, I never had heard of Quapaw before. I've been to Oklahoma. My first time was in 1994. You all remember Red Earth? Remember when it was a really big powwow? It was my first time where I went and there was 1,000 dancers. This is way before Gathering of Nation days, and I was at Red Earth with all the big names. And so that was when I was a young girl of age 35. Sometimes when I hear you say, I'm so old, I'm 35, and here I'm standing here when I was 35, I thought I was a very young girl. That was 29 years ago. I was wondering who I would see here. My first night, this is my 5th night here. I had to loosen up my belt because I was sitting over there having an Oklahoma meat pie. So my belt is almost on the last notch. I didn't know I was going to be speaking. You guys have awesome meat pies. Miigwech to the booth over here with the blue teds. Good meat pies over there. I arrived here and back in 1996, I had a hard time dancing to Southern drums. It took me a while. I'm Anishinaabe. I'm used to dancing Northern style. Whitefish Bay, Northern Wind, Midnight Express, all of those drums. So in 1996, I was really grateful. I seen Michael Roberts here. I seen a few other dancers. Delane Alley, Dee Dee Good Eagle. I don't know if she's still here. I was really grateful. I danced with these dancers at the Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. Over the years, Prairie Island, Shakopee, St. Croix, and all those places. And so I was asked to, I was thinking of those of you that have been around for a while might remember the late Della Lovejoy. She was a mom to so many of us. She's been gone for quite some time now. I've been thinking of her lately because even now, I hardly dance. There's been so much changes. Who said there's 365 combs on her dress? Who said no fan? Who said no plumes? I've been dancing this dance for decades and decades, and I never heard that. I dance what you call a straight jingle. That's it, straight jingle. I watch those Nokomis dance at Whitefish Bay, Treaty 3, Lake of the Woods. and I watched them bounce around on their toes, dancing up. And even somebody of the late Maggie White's family, they even have a video of late Maggie White dancing, jamming away at the age of 70 plus with her wing fan, dancing with her wing fan. Maybe, I'm wondering, I'm going to pause here for a minute. I was talking about late Della Lovejoy. When she sees something, and she's old school, when she sees something that didn't understand or wasn't right, she didn't hesitate. She just I want to talk to you. I want to tell you something. I want to know how come when you sit with your jingle dress and when you hike it up like this, why are your bare legs showing? Where's your skirt? Do you not have any shame sitting there with your legs like that? And then I hear, and I'm an academic, I'm a university professor in Alberta. I'll hear some people, some academics say, oh, that's colonialism. We can have our legs showing. Well, as an academic, as a Shiibaashka'igan, as a Shiibaashka'igan knowledge keeper, you wear that underskirt. You make a proper dress. I've said it. So many times in the past week or the past summer, I said, I want to be like Della Lovejoy. When I see something, we have to remember these ways. Some of you, I know quite a few of you are Kevin Patchen friends. And he made a post this morning and this weekend. I really appreciate his post about our old ways. And at this moment, I have a story that I told briefly. I told our MC here, our wonderful MC who's been going on for 4 nights. It's awesome. I said, I'm telling you the drive-through version. And I decided, when Cricket asked me to come and speak, I decided that I'm going to share this story that happened in 1989 in Whitefish Bay, when this dress was starting to gain popularity. But I was hesitant to share the story, so I'm going to ask one of my adopted sons to come and stand by me. Actually, him and his wife, Michael Roberts. I've danced with Michael for a long time. He must have been a teenager. We danced at the Atlantic Olympics together. I've danced decades with his mom, his dad. My reserve is called Quapaw, Bay of the Beavers. And his mom and dad have been in Quapaw, or Wiki. So, Mike, I think of Michael like a son. I was so glad when he came and he said, welcome to Oklahoma. And I can't get over, and I need Sophie to stand beside Michael, and Rebecca, his wife. We've known this couple forever and ever. Be patient. I'll try to throw a joke in if you're getting bored listening to me. Be patient. It was the 70s when the drum Whitefish Bay, which is made of father and all the sons, and their mom, late Maggie White, they took her traveling around. When I danced in Whitefish Bay, many of my friends there, they said, yeah, my mom dances too. My grandma, my Nokomis, she dances too. So many of you associate the dress just from one person. This dress came through a dream to our community as Anishinaabe people, plural. There's different interpretations, different understandings. I can only share with you what I learned from the grandmothers, both in Minnesota and at Lake of the Woods in Ontario. And as I said, that's where I'm from. I'm from Ontario, I'm Anishinaabe. The dress was gaining popularity. They did an invitation. And it's very ironic to tell this story here in Oklahoma. And even though I rarely, some of you new people who are new to powwow, you're probably wondering, who the heck is Karen and Sophie? Never heard of them, never saw them. But those of you that have been around a long time, you recall when the dress was gaining popularity. We had a drum here, and some of the older guys here, you remember Gray Horse drum. Hands up, anybody remember Gray Horse drum? Late Jack and Q, Jim and Q. Well, they came up to Lake of the Woods. As you know, as singers and as dancers, we were asked earlier on at the back here, we want to learn about the dress. So right away I just said, well then you need to go to the land. You need to go to where the spirit carries you, Shiibaashka'igan, at Lake of the Woods. And that's what Jim, Jack, and Q and Gray Horse Drum did. They went up there. And at the time, Jackie Tunsakoy was the Oklahoma princess, right? She came up there. Also, Michael was there, so he's my witness. And in our ways, the witness is how we tell truths, how we observe and we witness. And when I went to Michael earlier on, I said, Cricket asked me to come and speak. We were talking about 1989. And he said, Karen, I'm there with you. So I'd asked him to be standing here beside me. Jackie Tunsakoy wanted to understand the dress. And if you travel in that area, the vendors, just like here, you see the vendors have the crafts of your local area. They had vendors who had jingle dresses. So she got one of them. And she wanted to understand. She went to the drum, Gray Horse, and Gray Horse was speaking with Whitefish Bay, Gabe DeRoche, his lead singer at the time, understanding that beat. Even the beat, it's a different beat, a jingle dress beat. Sidestep and a jingle dress fast song, which is different than a fancy dance fast song. It was Tommy White that was speaking. And he was speaking, the grandmas were all lined up over here, the Nokomis, all the jingle dress dancers. Not one, not two, all of them were there. And they were speaking, and he was speaking on behalf of them. And they showed us, the drum started the song, and all those Nokomis, they all danced Shiibaashka'igan, the jingle dress. And they danced, and each one of them, they didn't dance exactly the same. They had their own style. Somebody dipped their shoulder, somebody had higher step, somebody had a few more steps than the other one. Nothing fancy. Some might have had a plume, some might not have a plume. Somebody might have had a wing fan, some might not have had a wing fan. Some had 3 rows on their dresses, some had 7 rows. It was different. Each dress represented who they are, as all of my dresses do, as all of my daughter's dresses do. So they showed us the dance, and then they stepped back, and all of us were there. I don't know how many, there was dozens, and dozens. I'm not from Treaty 3, I'm from Manitoulin Island. I was a visitor there. So they got us on the floor, and they said, we showed you how we danced. Now, share your dance with us. And so, everybody took their spot in the arena. You know how we are when we're contesting. I'll move somebody over there and over there. So it kind of went like that. So everybody, the drum started. The women started going. So some were being their graceful Shiibaashka'igan dance. But then there was those ones. I call them the washing machine dancers. Spinning, turning, kicking. And all of a sudden, I almost forgot this. I was visiting with Sharon Roberts, Michael's mom. We were talking about this one here. And she reminded me, that's right. I don't know if any of you, the drum over there, if you've ever seen this. The women, the gals, some of them were getting a bit too, I don't want to sound offensive. Okay, we're going to be politically correct. They were getting too contemporary. So Maggie White, I had to do that. You had to see it. She stopped the song halfway through the dance. She stopped the song, she came back, and they talked, and they said, that is not what we showed you. We didn't dance like that. We were graceful. Well, it's in Anishinaabe, they're saying it. Our dance is healing. Our dance is medicine. It's flowing. It's the clones. Then they showed us, right? They showed us again. We'll show you again how we dance. And all of those Nokomis got up there when they danced. There, we showed you. And then they went, stepped aside, we went again. Totally put in our place. Totally spoken to. And they didn't say, we're sorry. They just said, stop the song, and this is how it's done. And I'm doing that today. 30 years, I don't know how many, long time, over 30 years later. I had forgotten this story, and somebody reminded me in 2002, so it already was 10, 15 years later. So what happened is, they picked, the Nokomis picked 10 dancers. Terry Fiddler's wife, Marcy. Marcy Fiddler, she was an amazing jingle dress, straight jingle. Not old style, not contempt, straight jingle dress dancer. I'm going to talk about old style in a minute. Oh, somebody's tapping their watch. I told you I'd be bad in animal. Maybe it's time for me to tell a joke. Anyway, so the grandmas picked 10 dancers. I'm honored, I am blessed. I was one of the 10. And so many years later, I produced the story, a theater company produced it, and I didn't know how to show contemporary dancers. So I'm a big Tina Turner, Mary J. Blige fan. So we did the piece with Mary J. Blige song and Tina Turner, showing how those dancers dance contemporary. So I was one of the 10 selected by those grandmothers. So I decided, did a book called The Promise to the Nokomis. Sophie, I want to call the cultural committee and the business committee. This is a book I did 2008, long time ago, Shiibaashka'igan. And it's called The Promise to the Nokomis. The transfer of the Anishinaabe dance to the next generation beyond the Great Lakes. And so, somebody from the committee, somebody from the business. And so I'm going to take a moment while they're coming. I'm going to talk about, this is for their archives. So they have a beautiful, the library. So, I was speaking with Cindy from the drum here, the mom. And we're talking about big drum ceremonies. And we're talking about the lodges. And here we are. Wedge for your collection. So, as you know, it took, so one of the dances gaining popularity is something called the woodland style dance. I was watching it at Winnipeg, Manitowoc at the end of May, a couple of months ago. And I've seen that woodland dance ever since I was a little girl. I've seen the scrub dance ever since I was a young little girl. And the dance I was seeing isn't the dance I remember from when I was a little girl. Anyway, what I've seen is, and I don't know what to think, you know, I'm very blessed. All of my children dance. And when I see Michael and his wife dance and his kids dance, they get together. And one of the most awesome family conversations, and I'm sure it's the same with you, if you're a family of singers or a family of dancers, a family of crafters and vendors, we sit there and talk about it. So I'm going to ask you to talk about this. When I see an adaptation, is what I'll call it, like borrowed, and I see from that scrub dance, which in the lodge, in Minnesota, in the lodge, the dance in the lodges, and I'm sure it's the same here, but the dance we do in our lodges is very different than powwow. And so I see an adaptation or a borrowing, especially like the swinging of the arms. I don't ever remember seeing that 50 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I don't remember. And so I do see it in scrub dancing, so I see it being adapted and now called old style. I don't know. You talk about it with yourselves. You find somebody older and ask them what they remember. Because late Maggie White came down here a long time ago, didn't she? She came down, they went together, they went around. And so I'm just telling you what I witnessed, what I saw. And so when we talked to that young couple, the mom, I think, and the daughter at the back, I said, don't be ordering an outfit online, watching a whole bunch of YouTubes, and then think you're dancing. Know the stories. Even this drum here, this drum over here, different creators created each song, and it was gifted to them, and then the way they transfer that song. And the same here, kudos to Quapaw committee, to the Rice family, to the Waters family, inviting me. Cricket called me December. That's how this happened. This has been 6 months in the works, talking back and forth. They mailed me Sema tobacco. I got my tobacco in Alberta. We've been talking about this, so lots of work went to it. I remember being at Salamanca powwow. I'm going to end with this kind of pause here. I remember being at Salamanca about 15, 20 years ago, and I was kind of judging or watching, I don't recall. I was watching this dancer, and I was looking. I go, oh, OMG, a YouTube dancer. You know what a YouTube dancer is? They watch YouTubes, and they pick their favorite moves of a half a dozen of their favorite dancers, and they watch them. They do a little bit of Rusty Gillette, Daryl Bolton, that old guy, Jonathan Windy Boy. And so that dance is about how this song enters your soul, how that song enters your spirit, and how it lifts you, and how your body reciprocates that song. Hi, miigwech.